Harry's Wife, Pod 104.36, 2024. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. There is much about the United States that can be admired and liked, whilst there are those that regularly take the mick out of some of the traditions and behaviours of those that hail from the United States. It is a country that has one of the most diverse landscapes on the planet, having all 5 climates within its borders. It's a place of innovation and invention, a can-do attitude, whereby, rather than thinking, how can the government help us, the attitude is, how can we sort this out ourselves? The world's leading provider of entertainment, with Hollywood churning out films in a massive multi-billion-dollar industry that has dominated the screens around the world for decades. American culture, with its hot dogs, baseball and Coca-Cola, are recognized throughout the world. Pop music, literature, all of those are aspects carried by the English language that are many things that are deemed great about the United States. The self-belief that its citizens have, the idea that anybody can reach the top, although of course empirical evidence tends to suggest that is only for the chosen few, but nevertheless that belief in the American dream and the manner by which many Americans subscribe to it are yet other things that are great about the United States. And ultimately, the ultimate accolade is that they achieved their independence by defeating the number 1 nation on earth at the time, good old Blighty, the United Kingdom. But anyway, much as there is to like about the United States, there is potential trouble ahead. Whatever you might think about Sleepy Joe Biden or the Donald, there is news that would probably send a chill down the back of every right-minded citizen of the United States. And it comes from the Express newspaper, albeit it's covered elsewhere also, in an article by Katie Harris, which describes this. Desperate Democrats put Harry's wife as top choice for 2024 White House run against Trump. Now, you may recall that I did the excellent series, 10 People That Harry's Wife Should Fear. And if you haven't watched those videos, what on earth have you been doing with your life? But amongst them, I detailed the Donald, because he's no fan of her, and he would invariably eat her for breakfast. But let's find out what's being stated in this article. There has been ongoing speculation that the former Suits actress could be eyeing up a move into the political arena. Harry's wife is the top choice among Democrats for a 2024 White House run, new polling shows. Exclusive polling for Express.co.uk by the Washington-based Democracy Institute of likely Democratic voters found 64% say the party should opt for a female candidate at the next presidential election in 2 years. And the Duchess of Sussex, who is living in California with Prince Harry after quitting royal duties, came first in a list of potential runners with 27% from the 525 Democrats in the poll of 1,500 likely voters. Vice President Kamala Harris was second with 25%. Hillary Clinton, who lost to Donald Trump in 2016, and left-wing Congressman Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez were in joint third with 20%. Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, a favorite of the liberal left who made a bid to be Democratic presidential candidate in 2020, trailed behind on 8%. Michelle Obama, the wife of the former US President Barack Obama, has previously ruled herself out, despite being a favorite. Now, looking at that list of runners and riders, they're not exactly inspiring, I would say, irrespective of your political leanings. But fascinating that in this poll, Harry's wife would come ahead of established politicians. Now, of course, it's just a poll, and you can find polls that tell you more or less whatever you'd like, but this is an outcome. And the fact that it details that Harry's wife is marginally in front ahead of established career politicians perhaps demonstrates the continuing fatigue that American voters have for those of the political establishment, part of the reason why the Donald succeeded in the first place. The article continues. Democracy Institute Director Patrick Basham said, "We have confirmed that most Democrats want a female and arguably demand a female candidate next time. It has been said for a few years that the Democrats will pretty soon be in a position where the National Democratic Party stops nominating white, heterosexual males as candidates. Previously, we have had Michelle Obama in there. She is not a serious candidate because she does not appear to be serious about running." That kind of makes sense. The elephant in the room, unfortunate choice of phraseology, I would suggest there, but the elephant in the room on the Democrat side is Harry's wife, who continues to make moves out there, and I would argue test the water in various ways and in various senses. She finds herself partly, because of her paint-by-numbers profile, ahead, whatever the fuck that means. As a newcomer, she hasn't been tested and hasn't been found to fail. That makes sense. She remains a viable contender if she chooses to go down that path. It comes as the monthly tracker poll carried out from November 1st to 3rd suggests that Republicans will beat the Democrats in the races for the Senate and Congress in the upcoming US midterms. The polling also found former US President Mr. Trump was backed over incumbent Joe Biden. On who they would vote for if the 2024 presidential election is between Mr. Trump and Mr. Biden, some 49% said the Republican compared to 45% who chose the Democrat. 6% were undecided. Earlier this week, Mr. Trump, who has refused to accept the result of the 2020 ballot, dropped his strongest hint yet that he may run again. He told crowds of supporters at a rally in Iowa that he would very, very, very probably do it again in 2024. Meanwhile, speculation is high that former actress Harry's wife, who previously branded Mr. Trump divisive and misogynistic, assertion of control through smearing, could one day make a bid for US president. Mr. Biden's sister, Valerie Biden Owens, earlier this year invited the LA-born Duchess to join the Democrats. Ms. Biden Owens, the campaign manager for her brother, added that the ex-suit star would make a good presidential candidate. Fuck me. Acid-pen biographer Tom Bauer, who wrote the revenge book on the Sussex's rift with the royal family, has also said Harry's wife is likely to run for US president. And arse-licking plastic lieutenant, improbably named Omid Scobie, co-author of the flattering Finding Freedom biography on Harry's wife and Harry, said Harry's wife is the embodiment of the American dream. One day we may see Harry's wife become president. Really? She is the embodiment of the American dream? A scammer? A fraud? A narcissist? A liar? Okay. The embodiment of the American dream seems to have shifted from what I thought it was at the beginning of this video. Now, as I've explained to you elsewhere, politics is a honeypot for our kind. Why? Two main reasons. First of all, it caters wonderfully to the prime aims. There's so many people that can be controlled by getting hold of power. There's so much fuel that can be obtained from millions, tens of millions of people, hundreds of millions of people around the world as a consequence of getting your hands on the reins of power. Character traits galore are there to be obtained, and then there's the residual benefits. Facade management, power itself, decision-making, access to networks, and, of course, wealth. So all of those things can be obtained in absolute spades through politics. Moreover, because it's such a honeypot for our kind, invariably the ones that succeed in a political environment are our kind. You occasionally get empaths that reach the top, Jimmy Carter being an example of that, and there are others around the world, but usually it's my gang that gets to the top and stays at the top, at least until they're voted out and replaced by the next one from our gang. And therefore, in order to survive in such an environment, it invariably takes one of our kind. Now, the reason that Donald succeeded was as a combination of the fact that he didn't come from a political dynasty, that he was a successful businessman, although there'll be those that will argue about what you would define as successful, but he basically shot from the lip, and he appealed to people because he was straight talking, and he was there to get jobs and business and not fuck around pandering to minority schemes that were deemed inappropriate and a distraction. Naturally he has his distractors, of course he does, but it's easy to understand why he appealed to many, many voters. And his bluff, straightforward means of talking was as a consequence of the form of narcissist that he is. He calls it as he sees it. He's right, you're wrong. He's big, you're small. He's strong, you're weak. And that enabled him to push and push and push, so that he made the money that he's made, that he has became President of the United States, and I've analysed him separately as to why he is a narcissist. There are other narcissists, for instance, Barack Obama, who he is a complete contrast in style to that of President Trump. An operator, cold, clinical, charismatic, knowing precisely why he's doing what he's doing, doesn't give a crap about anybody, but brilliant at making it seem like he does. Completely in it for himself, able to make decisions without due care about how it impacts upon people, but giving the pretense, and knowingly doing so, that he cares. He was a different form of narcissist, aware, polished, and effective in a different way to that of Trump. And one can go back through the list of presidential candidates and those who became president to identify those that are narcissists, and similar can be done in other countries around the world. The United Kingdom, Canada, France, Australia, and so on and so forth. But what about Harry's wife? Could she cut it in politics? The short answer is no. The reason being is, whilst all narcissists have a victim mentality, she has two distinct problems. She's nowhere near as popular as she thinks she is, and furthermore, she just simply couldn't cut it. At the first sign of challenge, she lashes out, and she whinges, and she whines. She's not polished enough, she isn't bombastic enough, she hasn't the intelligence either. Now, intelligence isn't a prerequisite to her succeed in politics. Many of you will be able to point to some complete dunderheads. But what they often have is charisma. She hasn't. What they often have is that political slickness driven by their narcissism. She hasn't. In fairness, of course, she got to the position of joining the royal family. But as I've repeatedly pointed out to you, her narcissism wasn't capable of keeping her in that position. It might enable her to get into a position to take a tilt at the White House, but she won't succeed. She'll be torn to shreds, because so much of her murky past will be delved into and exposed, and she'll have nowhere to go in that regard, and there'll be plenty of people waiting, salivating almost, for this to come to the fore as a consequence of her behaviours that have gone forward already. The fact that she says so much without actually saying anything will even cause all but the hardcore Democrat voter to think, no, not really for me. I don't really know what she stands for. And too often there is this difficulty in terms of identifying what the candidate really stands for, and most of the time is spent throwing pelters at the other person. She doesn't actually stand for anything. Any analysis of what she talks about shows that she bandwagons, moves from one thing to another, and she would be torn apart in a presidential debate because whilst her narcissism will defend her, it won't be so effective as to do it on a political stage. Indeed, I could probably spend a good hour going through all the reasons why she will fail as a politician. I may well do that in a separate video. But the point is that there is this suggestion, and of course it's probably, again, PR puff pieces to try and test the water to see if she gets a favourable reaction, to see also whether there is scope for her perhaps to enter politics as a senator rather than tilting at the White House. The fact is, it would strike me as a disaster for the Democratic Party if she was the presidential nomination, because she simply isn't popular. She simply is somebody that many Americans are indifferent to, and ultimately she would get torn apart, and particularly if she's facing up against the Donald. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.